It's Thursday, September 3. I'm Herman Green with a special midday report, midday newscast on the general election. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. Jamaicans have been coming out to make their decision for leadership in the general election. The electorate, including candidates and the two-party leaders, are among those who have voted since morning. But opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips says he will step down as leader of the opposition if the party loses the election. He made the revelation in an interview with TVJ News earlier today. Have reacted to Dr. Phillips' announcement that he'll be stepping down if the PNP is not successful at the polls. Helen Davis-White says Dr. Phillips' decision does not come as a surprise. She was speaking on the Decision 2020 show a short while ago.
Bearing in mind Dr. Phillips' age and the fact that he has been at it for a very long time, I think he would have wanted to retire at the, he would have seen the prime ministership as the pinnacle of his career. But based on where he is now, I am not surprised that if he does not actually come out victorious, he would not want to continue, because as I say, his age would make it such that for the next elections, he would be somewhere closer to 80 years old. And not many of us want to be in the hustle and bustle of politics at that level.
It's quite a breaking news. And I think it's not so much a coincidence, but more person's sense that this was possibly going to happen. I mean, like, when you look at his political career and the future of the party with him, and the question of the test for leadership that has happened last year and even prior before, as Earl had said, it's clear that he would be more resolute in himself that if I don't take the PNP to the victory, then it's might as well I retire now.
Now our reporter Andrea Chisholm is at the Mona High School polling station in St. Andrew Eastern and now joins us live with an update. Andrea.
Thank you very much, Herman. We're still here at Mona High in East St. Andrew, where scores of persons have turned out to vote for either the incumbent, the JLP's Favour Williams, or the PNP's Venetia Phillips. This constituency actually has two divisions, the Mona division, which is controlled by the JLP, and the Papine division, of which Ms. Phillips is actually the councillor. As you can see behind me, persons are still in line waiting to cast their vote. One senior citizen told me earlier that COVID or no COVID, she has to be here today to register her support for the candidate of her choice. Now, earlier today here at Mona High, one of the voters actually fainted. We were told by EOG officials that they were able to give her something sweet to drink and she was actually revived. Nonetheless, persons here have been complaining about one thing from morning, and that thing is slow voting. Sir, how long have you been here since morning?
I got here at 20 minutes to 7 this morning. And I stood in a line for almost over 15 minutes, only to be told that my name was not on the list for that polling division. I had to come out. This is after being informed at the front that my polling division was as part of the number. I had to leave that line, walk around the EOJ representative until I found where my polling division was, to join another line. And that's where I am now.
So as we speak now, it's 2 hours and counting, and you still have not been able to vote?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the excuse from the persons? Because you said you queried before about your name being at the particular polling division.
It just wasn't there. So I don't know what information they had on the outside to direct people. I don't know what happened there. But I can tell you right now that this is very frustrating, and you know I can just imagine what is going on in other areas where you know things might be a little bit less controlled.
Yeah. Nonetheless, will you still be sticking it out to vote?
I'm here.
And you won't leave until you vote?
Nope.
And after that interview, Herman, I spoke with Derek Brown, who is actually the returning officer of East St. Andrew, to find out what the fuss was all about.
All right, in the morning, sometimes I get a heavy voter turnout in the morning. And on top of that, people are complaining that the system is slow. And the system becomes slow when you have seniors who are voting and their prints are already damaged because of old age, or because of persons who are skilled, who have certain trades, and they work hard and it damages their prints. And so the system takes a while to identify and verify them. And when that happens, if it's not verified with the system, then they have to go through the black book process on the system. So first of all, they have to scan all 4 fingers, and if all 4 fingers fail, then it takes them to what they call exceptional processing, which involves questions being asked on the black book. And when that happens, it takes slow. A younger person or somebody that doesn't work as hard or whose fingerprints are not damaged, in 2 or 3 minutes they should be out.
Okay. I got information that this system has collapsed in the constituency.
Not in this constituency. So no, I've gotten a similar report at certain place, and I've actually driven there and look at what is happening, and it's the same thing with the fingerprints.
Okay, so it's not that the EVBs has collapsed.
No, it has not. No, it has not. In addition to that, we have a technician at every single location. So in the event of something going wrong, there's a technician there to help fix that problem. And as far as I am aware of, and I've been to most stations, the system has not crashed.
And I must tell you that EOJ officials were also quick to point out that they're trying their best to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols, and that would lengthen the voting process for voters. Now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness and his wife Juliet Holness were also here earlier today at Mona High. They actually voted at polling station number 35, and we had a chance to speak to the Prime Minister for a brief moment. Prime Minister, how are things looking for the JLP so far?
Well, the report I got this morning is that in almost all constituencies, the turnout is as they have expected. Based upon their canvass and their polling, the turnout seems to be in the region that they were expecting, which is between 55 and 60%. That's the turnout they are expecting. The turnout has been heavy in the morning. So it would appear to me that persons are calculating rain, calculating other issues, and trying to get to the polling station early. It seems to me as well that it is generally peaceful. Persons are coming out to exercise their franchise in peace. As it relates to COVID, that is lingering in the minds of people. The increased numbers would have created a concern. But I think people are getting the message that we have to go about our business, following the protocols and learning to live with the disease.
Prime Minister, how many seats are the JLP projecting to win tonight?
My answer previously is, we expect to win more than we currently have. I don't want to venture a guess, but I would say we would be certainly more than 35.
Can you say how much you have spent on the campaign thus far?
It would be difficult. We haven't tallied yet. It would be difficult to say.
So East St. Andrew is definitely one of the constituencies to watch tonight. In the last general election, Favour Williams won by 161 votes. And since 1993, since the general election of 1993, the PNP has won the seat on 3 occasions, and the JLP has also won the seat on 3 occasions. So until then, I am Andrea Chisholm reporting from Mona High in East St. Andrew.
All right, thank you very much, Andrea. And we don't take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have more stories when we return.
2020, the year of the most twists and turns, and we've got you covered. Decision 2020 COVID-style coverage. From the opening of the polls across Jamaica, our teams will bring you ballot-by-ballot coverage. We'll give you the latest voters count, spiced with our experienced analysts. Which party will form the next government? TVJ's Decision 2020, we've got you covered.
Midday News, our coverage of Decision 2020, the general election. Now, our reporter Vashon Brown is at the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, the hub of the election day proceedings. Vashon, what can you tell us?
Coming in, but again, there are more issues that have impacted on that. Some relates to some amount of impatience Some of it relates to the process that we have to go through. Whenever a person comes without the ID, we have to go through the process of swearing that person, and it takes a longer time. And so there are no reasons as to that. What we have sought, we're seeking to, as best as possible, speed up the process. My review of some of the location, just as comment on live, is that it has improved considerably. I mean, we expect for the remainder of the day we should have a significant backlog.
Is part of the reason for the delay as well the electronic voter identification and ballot issuing system? We've seen some complaints about those as well.
Yes, in the sense that, and it shouldn't, the fact is that the machine is intended to speed up the process. It's a quicker way to identify the elector rather than using this manual process. So there have been some issues. We have started to look at how best we can improve on that. So it has contributed to a certain extent, but what is significant though, the turnout this morning, based on just looking at it without actually seeing the actual data, seemed to suggest that there was a fairly heavy turnout during the first 2 hours this morning. A concern to us, very challenging to get people to adhere to it, even with the presence of the security force. And that's a very serious concern to us. And again, we just use the process of appealing to the electors going forward for the remainder of the day, as best as possible, try to adhere to that physical distancing arrangement that we put in place. It's critical that when you access the system online, is that you put in the information that is on your ID card. So if you put in information that is not similar to what is on your ID card, you won't be able to access the system. And we have been having some challenges over the last 2 days. In other words, what we anticipate in terms of the usage of that online process is the actual usage way above our expectation. For example, in the past, we normally have maybe one hit per minute. We are now having near 3 hits per second, etc. So it has a significant amount of traffic that to take place. But apart from that, though, there are a number of options available to the elector. You can use our toll-free number. You can call in to any one of our 70 constituencies across Jamaica, and that process will assist you to get whatever information you need to get.
All right, thank you, our reporter there, Vashan Brown. Now, in St. Mary's Southeastern, our reporter Anthony Lugg has been there, where the JLP's Norman Dunn is seeking to retain his seat. Now, he's up against the PNP's Dr. Shane Alexis.
Thank you. Now, I'm here at the Anata Bay Primary School in the Southeast St. Mary constituency, and I can tell you that things are going pretty smoothly here at this polling station. Now, in the Southeast St. Mary constituency, it's the incumbent JLP, Dr. Norman Dunn, going up against the PNP's Dr. Shane Alexis. Now, since we've been here since about 8 o'clock this morning, voters have been making their way in and out of the polling stations to their respective polling divisions. Now, again, as we speak, I'd like to point out that the COVID-19 protocols are being observed here for the most part. Now, we've observed some social distancing markers here just outside the polling divisions, as well as sanitization workers who are carrying out the respective temperature checks and then sanitizing the hands of voters before allowing them into the polling division. Now, there's a relatively strong police military presence here on the grounds of the Anata Bay Primary School. Now, some more information on the constituency. The Southeast St. Mary constituency, as I said earlier, is now being held by the incumbent Dr. Norman Dunn, and Dr. Shane Alexis will be looking to take this seat for the PNP. Now, the last time these two men went up against each other was in the 2017 by-election following the passing of Dr. Winston Green. Now, again, I tell you, things are going pretty smoothly here at the Anata Bay Primary School, and we will be monitoring the situation here and will provide you with updates in subsequent newscasts.
All right, thank you very much, Anthony Lugg. Now we continue our comprehensive coverage this afternoon with our reporter Giovanni Dennis. He is over in St. Ann Northwestern. Giovanni, what can you tell us?
So we're just outside the Brownstown High School in Brownstown, St. Ann. Of course, we're in the St. Ann Northwest constituency. Now, as you can see behind me, members of the security forces are monitoring the proceedings, ensuring that persons are lining up when they are going inside, ensuring that they're wearing their masks, they have their temperature checks done, and also that they are sanitized. As you can see there, the representative from the Jamaica Constabulary Force instructing the voter who is leaving to ensure that she puts her mask on. Now, to my right, there is a group of PNP supporters as well. They are here. I've seen them speaking to supporters of the People's National Party once they get here, encouraging them to go on the inside and vote. Now, of course, the incumbent in this seat is Dr. Dayton Campbell, who is now seeking a third term in office. But before he does that, if he is to do that, he will have to get by Crystal Lee of the JLP. But not only will he have to get by Crystal Lee, he will also have to get by Peter Shand, who is the independent candidate. Now, I spoke to him earlier about what his thoughts on his chances, and he said he's unbothered.
We don't get distracted and focus on those things. We would probably be anxious if we were not doing what we were supposed to do, but we're not anxious because we have been doing what we're supposed to do. Politics is about organization, so you're doing the enumeration. It's about doing the work, understanding where your strength is or where your numbers are. How do you message to the people based on the issues that are affecting them? How do you mobilize your support on the day? Those are things that we fully understand, and those are things that we have been focused on and working on. So today we don't have any. I feel very confident. Very confident. Our canvas is the best canvas I've seen since I've been here in any election. And so I expect today that we will come out victorious and that we'll come out by a larger margin than the two previous elections.
In terms of the PNP's chances overall, your thoughts on that?
I think that the PNP will surprise a lot of persons this evening. I think that if you look at the polls, you'll realize that both national pollsters show that the party had gained the early momentum in the election. And I think coming out of the debate, the party would have gained a further momentum. And the same pollsters had said that 30% of persons changed their vote based on the national debates. And I think the consensus is that the PNP would have won the debates when you look at them collectively. And so we expect that today, some of these constituencies that persons may think that they're out of play, we expect that some of them will be in play today. And there are a lot of the JLP MPs that were relying on the Prime Minister to carry them. Because of the COVID restriction, persons have not been able to campaign in the normal way. So they weren't able to have mass rallies and invite these persons to come and speak and mobilize their supporters. You had to be ground game. So candidate versus candidate, who is better at the messaging, who was better at the organization on the ground. And so I think that this evening there is likely to be a PNP victory. I would say somewhere between 34 to 36 seats.
Now, we also spoke to a representative of the Jamaica Labour Party who insisted that his candidate, Crystal Lee, has done enough work on the ground.
I live here for many years now, for over nearly 30 odd years, and the Member of Parliament is mission in action. So there are a lot of young people that are coming out to vote, and there are a lot of people that never vote before. A lot of undecided coming out to vote this time around. And many Labourite never vote the time when you win by 4 and you don't vote, but they are coming out to vote this time, I can tell you.
Okay, and you feel at the end of the day that you'll get?
Yeah, when the last vote count, the Jamaica Labour Party will declare the winner.
Now, as you can see there, an elderly man is being guided by persons to make his way to go and vote. He's walking on the inside, he's standing, he's not wearing protective equipment at the moment. I don't see a mask on him, but he's being guided on the inside by someone as the Jamaica Defence Force soldier stands and looks. So that's part of the proceedings here.
All right, thank you, Giovanni Dennis there. Now, the party machineries are visibly at work in St. Andrew Northwest. Runners, well, that's the transportation team recruited by parties to bring out voters. They were seen assisting voters, including the physically challenged. And we'll get back to that in a minute. In the meantime, it's been mostly calm over in St. Andrew West Rural. However, our news team observed a motorcycle crash involving one man on Red Hills Road. Krista Campbell is in the constituency. She's been covering and now files this report.
It's been a relatively incident-free day of voting in West Rural St. Andrew, where the People's National Party's Crystal Tomlinson is hoping to unseat Juliet Cuthbert Flynn of the Jamaica Labour Party. Voting has been steadily increasing despite the conflicting weather of sunshine 1 minute and rain the next. It is important to note that Stony Hill is a JLP stronghold. In fact, the party's constituency office is located here. We spoke to the PNP candidate just after she voted at New Providence Primary School in Barbican this morning.
We're getting very positive reports from the polling stations right now. Things are being run orderly. Our voters are able to come in with no sort of impediment, filing their names on the list and able to vote. Especially our base, our PNP base is those 50 plus. And they too had their concerns about coming out today. But we have done our part in West Rural St. Andrew to ensure that they have safe means of getting to the polling stations. They'll have their masks, the vehicles they travel will be sanitized. And as I said before, the EOJ is doing their part at the polling station to make sure that our electors feel safe and that the children are safe. So we like what we're seeing and hearing from the polling stations. So I'm going to be on the ground momentarily to see for myself.
Both candidates remain confident of a win for their parties, but when the ballots are counted this evening, there will be only one member of parliament. Krista Campbell reporting from West Rural St. Andrew for TVJ's Decision 2020.
All right, thank you, Krista. We take another break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. More coverage when we return.
2020, the year of the most twists and turns, and we've got you covered. Decision 2020 COVID-style coverage. From the opening of the polls across Jamaica, our teams will bring you ballot-by-ballot coverage. We'll give you the latest voters count, spiced with our experienced analysts. Which party will form the next government? TVJ's Decision 2020, we've got you covered.
Welcome back to the Midday News and our Decision 2020 election coverage. Now, the party machineries are visibly at work in St. Andrew Northwest. Runners, which as I said before are the transportation teams recruited to bring out the voters, were seen assisting voters, to include the physically challenged.
Voters queued up at the Marvelly Primary and Junior High School in Northwest St. Andrew were determined to vote, an umbrella indicating no matter the weather. But as the able-bodied stood in line, party workers on both sides could be seen assisting those who are not so nimble. This lady explains that despite her disability, she wants to keep the current leadership in place.
I have a good leader, and we cannot throw him away. He work hard for the people, He work very hard, more than harder as a prime minister. Yes. I sit down and see him work. Right. And he must get paid, right.
The JLP workers have been assisting persons like her all morning. Not to be outdone, the PNP runners have been doing the same, assisting the elderly and the physically challenged. The incumbent for the Northwest St. Andrew constituency is Dr. Nigel Clark. He took over after winning a by-election as the former MP Derek Smith stepped down because of illness. The JLP has won this seat comfortably in the last 5 elections. However, the PNP runners are bringing in as many votes as possible for their candidate to run banks and their party.
PNP have to win today.
We have to win today. I take it to them today.
Yeah, know that.
I take it to them. I take it to them.
Today.
I take it to them.
Yeah.
We not give it them. I take it to them.
Good job, I love it. I love it.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
And we now go over to southeast Clarendon, where Dwayne Anderson has been on the ground since morning. Voters in that constituency have been complaining about delays due to safety protocols. Here's Dwayne with that roundup.
thank you so much for joining me. So right now I'm in Mineral Heights, the community where the headquarters of both candidates are in southeast Clarendon. Colonel Charles Jr. of the JLP and Patricia Duncan Sutherland of the PNP. Understandably quiet right now. That's because the candidates and their teams are on the ground across the constituency, ensuring that their election machineries are operating. Now, they've been on the ground, but I've also been on the ground in the constituency, checking out what is really happening. I visited 3 polling divisions. I went in Sandy Bay, Palmer's Cross, and Freetown. Now, many persons will remember that Sandy Bay is one of the communities here in southeast Clarendon that had a quarantine. So that is of particular interest. So when I went there, I observed if persons were, as I would say, scorning persons who were in the quarantine. Nothing like that. So that's good news. No sign of any stigmatization. Now, I went over to Palmer's Cross after that, and what I noticed, there were long lines, which suggests to me that the people are turning out to vote. However, the lines were moving very slowly. That's because of the social distance guidelines, and persons have to wait, they have to space out to vote. But that is that in Palmer's Cross. I also went to Freetown, which is considered one of the strongholds for the Jamaica Labour Party, and understandably a lot of persons out there in their green, in the lines, trying to vote, trying to get Colonel Charles Jr. of the JLP elected as MP here in southeast Clarendon. Now, back to over in Palmer's Cross, one of the glitches I observed over there was that I spoke with some sanitization workers, and one of them in particular complained that she was there from 5:30 this morning, and up to 8 o'clock she did not get the products she needed to do the sanitization of the high traffic areas over there. So that was of a little concern, because this needs to be done to ensure the virus is not spread in those areas. For the rest of the day, I'll be going in other parts of the southeast Clarendon constituency, down there in Hayes, which is the bastion of the People's National Party support here in southeast Clarendon. I'll be going down to Rocky Point as well, where most of the Jamaica Labour Party's votes are expected to come from. So far, so good. Not many glitches to report here in the parish. All the polling stations I checked, they opened on time, and so far, so good. But I also spoke with the 2 candidates, and this is what they had to say. Mrs. Duncan Sutherland, we see your finger there with purple ink on it. You voted?
Sir. Yes, I voted today at Longville Park. It was my pleasure to vote. Although it took very long, I thought I could talk with the supervisor there, because I think the lines are a little too slow, and they don't have to be as slow. So they could speed it up.
On my rounds, I noted that the lines were long, but they were moving slow. Is this a concern for you in terms of how the voting might turn out for the rest of the day?
Yes, because then there are about 2 or 3 voters who were very frustrated, because not only were they long, at Longville Park there was confusion about where they were to line up, and that turned off the voters.
You are an experienced politician. You've been on the ground for a long time. Based on what you've seen so far, is there any indication in your mind that persons are staying away because of the pandemic?
I'm not really seeing because of the pandemic. I'm not really seeing that they are staying away yet. As I told somebody earlier, it's a little hard to call because I haven't seen the numbers yet.
Mr. Charles, just about half day gone. How are you looking?
We're feeling good. And we've seen in some areas a real good turnout of voters. The difficulty is that because of the protocols, it is slowing down the process and creating some challenges for persons to get in and out. That's a frustrating process for voters, but I have ensured in my communication with them to let them know it is necessary. Social distancing in some places is being executed well, in others not so well. And so the police, we have to give them as much support as possible in their endeavors to try to ensure that the process is smooth and also that people are safe. So it's a new experience.
Now, naturally, I'll be providing you guys with a lot more as it becomes available. Any excitement, anything that I see that is newsworthy, I'll be sure to share it with you guys. But until then, it's back to the studios.
All right, thank you, Dwayne Anderson there. Now, voter frustration started early this morning as some Jamaicans claimed they were waiting too long to cast their ballots. The voters explained that while they understood the circumstances brought on by the pandemic, they believe the wait time is simply too long. Andrew Laidley has this report.
Jamaicans are allotted 3 hours to go to the polls and cast their ballots. But by the looks of things, at several voting stations across the island, the voters needed more time.
I'm here from 7 o'clock this morning, and I know PD 90 cannot loosen up for me to get my vote, and I need to vote. But I need to move up a little bit faster because the day getting short and we have to give our mark.
And people have places to go.
And we have our business to go and do. They're moving too slow.
Every election, the same thing happen. And we're out here from 7 o'clock up until now, to 11 now, and it's still not moving. We come here, find much of the people, them still not moving. So what is the problem?
They can't find my thing, man. From morning, I go home and I no, because bother with free business and I try to do a thing. And every box me go, everywhere me go, them tell me say, if you go this, I go try this, I go.
For others, it was the social distancing protocol that caused distress.
We don't need to set the example first. There's no way we're supposed to bungle up and then nobody can tell me if you move and I come up in my face and tell me if you move. Show me the lines them. This thing's supposed to be more professionally done. Inside the electoral office too, so look at people that are road hungry and want to work. COVID time. Put more decks in the man, make people get work and leave off the crowd.
People there are all 2 hours, 1 hour, or wait.
One voter in Trelawney complained about voter intimidation.
Are trying to bully us down.
Right.
We can't stay in, but them to stay inside.
So why them are running outside church here?
Because we are on the green. And this is Falmouth. Them claims that Falmouth is a PMP town. We don't have no right in at the polling station. And if we don't have no right in there, they're not supposed to have no right neither.
Staying in Trelawney, our news team identified that at the Falmouth all-age voting station, elders and the disabled were at a disadvantage because the voting booth was located upstairs. A makeshift voting booth was later set up to facilitate those voters. Andrew Laidley, TVJ News.
And we're now joined by Spencer Darlington, who is in St. James Southern. What are you seeing at this time, Spencer?
Thank you very much, Herman. Well, at this time, both Dr. Walton Small of the People's National Party and Homer Davis of the Jamaica Labour Party are oozing confidence that they will become the new Member of Parliament for this battleground seat of Southern St. James and replace the PNP's Derek Kelly, who has now retired from representational politics, having won 7 consecutive general elections and serving for a total of 31 years. So the people will get a new MP. All the polling stations we visited opened on time. There have been no reports of any incidents so far. There's good weather here, and several vehicles, I must say, have been transporting supporters of both political parties to various polling stations, all part and parcel of the election day process and machinery. The major concern at this time, though, for both candidates is the slow pace, as you would have heard from several other constituencies, the slow pace at which lines with voters has been moving in areas in southern St. James, such as Mount Carey, Cambridge, and Catadupa, for example. This, according to both candidates who I spoke to a few minutes ago, they surmise that it's as a result of the authorities trying to enforce the COVID-19 prevention protocols, especially social distancing, and also the process, Herman, involved in verifying information from some voters. Now, both candidates have stressed the importance of improving the physical infrastructure, among other things, such as agriculture and education, if they are successful. Dr. Small has already gone through Anchovy, and he's now looking to cover Mount Pelia, Cambridge, and Catadupa at this time, while Mr. Davis is planning to visit Anchovy, Bickersteth, Catadupa, Cambridge, and Maroon Town. That's the very latest at the moment, Herman, from Southern St. James. It's back to you.
All right, before you go, Spencer, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Just give us an idea. What have the voter reaction to the delay been like? Some persons in other constituencies are frustrated, and we've heard that some persons have left. Have you seen that on the ground there?
Not yet. I'm going to hit the street shortly again. But what many persons here in southern St. James have done, Herman, is that they came out quite early to get the voting out of the way. It's traditionally in some areas where between 7 a.m. when the stations are opened and 10 or 11 a.m. You've got a number of persons coming out to get that out of the way. Then the tempo drops just a bit after that, and then it's up in the afternoon. So we expect it to pick up once again. What will be interesting is between the hours of 4 and 5 when COVID-positive patients are supposed to come out to vote. But a lot of persons came out quite early. They were orderly. Sanitation workers were out in their numbers, and the only little issue was that of social distancing. At times, some persons tried to practice that, at times they forgot that, and we're just concentrating on trying to get into the polling station to cast their vote.
All right, thank you, Spencer. Stay safe out there.
All right, Herman.
All right, Spencer Darlington there in St. James Southern. And we now take another break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More coverage of Election 2020, Decision 2020, when we return.
Teams will bring you ballot by ballot coverage. We'll give you the latest voters count, spiced with our experienced analysts.
Welcome back to the Midday News, Decision 2020, the election coverage. The Jamaica Employers Federation, JEF, has responded to complaints from employees who have been contracted as election day workers. The workers say their employers are insisting that they go into quarantine after carrying out their duties today. Now, JEF President David Wan says in cases where employees are carrying out duties in the national interest, there is need for cooperation on the part of employers. Shamela Pullen has that story.
The Ministry of Labour yesterday issued a warning to employers who have told staff contracted as election day workers that they will be required to self-quarantine for 14 days before returning to work. It encouraged employers to be guided by the Holidays with Pay Act and Gazette notices published under the Disaster Risk Management Act. President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, David Wan, is calling for employers to cooperate in cases like these.
We are encouraging our members to work with those employees that provide that service to the Electoral office for them to work to find a solution to some of the issues relating to COVID during this election. There are some gray areas about what the law mandates and what some employers might have as a company policy, and it's not the same for all employers. So we are encouraging employers and employees to try to find ways to resolve these issues.
President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Richard Pandowi, says this will be necessary based on the risk level. But Mr. Pandowi says each case will be assessed on an individual basis.
Because not all workers are placed in necessarily a high-risk activity. There are some people operating behind the scene or computers, whatever. And so a lot of these workers, according to the companies of Canvas, will be able to work remotely after that. Some workers will take vacation, and some may have to go into quarantine based on the risk level that they're deemed to be exposed to, because they cannot go back in the organization and possibly compromise the population.
Meanwhile, Mr. Pandowi is urging employers to allow workers time off to vote today.
The election process is a very important part of our democratic process. It's important that Jamaicans get up and go out and vote. We believe it's a vote not only about a part of your choice, but it's also a vote for Jamaica. So we're encouraging all employers to allow their employees to go out and exercise their franchise 3 hours of their time. It's very important to do. So, the JMA membership that we have Canvas have said that they are allowing all their workers to exercise their franchise. So that's not an issue.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
All right, thank you, Shamela. We're continuing our coverage of Decision 2020. And now we're joined by our reporter, Jermaine Brown, who is in St. Elizabeth. Jermaine, what are you seeing in the Breadbasket Parish? Jeremy, can you hear us? Give us an idea what you're seeing in your... Jeremy, are you hearing us? Can you give us an idea what you're seeing so far?
Hi, Herman. Good afternoon. All right. So we've just arrived in the southwest constituency of St. Elizabeth. Of course, Floyd Green is the incumbent MP. He's been challenged by Ewan Stevenson. We're currently at the Flagaman Community Centre, where we're seeing far more PNP supporters than JP supporters. We understand this community is a PNP area in particular. Just going back a bit, coming from the southeast constituency, of course, where Frank Witter is the sitting MP, and he's been challenged by Dr. Dwayne Spencer. We caught up with Frank Witter, who is seeking to become the first JLP MP in southeast St. Elizabeth to win back-to-back elections. And he's sounding quite confident, stating that he expects to win by over 1,000 votes. In 2016, he won by just 205 votes, defeating Richard Parchment, who had defeated him in 2011. Of course, Frank Witter had first won in 2007. And as a result of this particular statistic, where the last 3 elections have been shared between both parties, the Southeast St. Elizabeth seat is seen as a marginal seat. But for Witter, he's saying that he's confident that not only will he win, but he will win by a landslide. There were some concerns about the long lines. We were at the B.B. Coke High School, where we did observe the long lines, as was mentioned by Frank Witter when we saw him earlier today. The officials there were repeatedly telling persons to stand back and to social distance. Everyone we observed pretty much was wearing a mask. The only issue was just how close persons were standing to each other. And when we got to the B.B. Coke High School, outside the gate was crowded. We were wondering why there was such a large crowd outside the gate. As when we got in, we saw enough space where persons could have been let inside. There was a contrast, however, at the Top Hill Primary School, where things seemed were flowing a bit more smoothly. There seemed a bit more order. At B.B. Coke, the police had to be called in at one point just to get the electors just to observe and pay attention to what the officials were saying at that particular polling station. The Southeast seat has been largely won by the PNP. There's 10-3 in terms of both parties winning that particular seat. Dwayne Spencer, quietly confident, saying that he has done the work. Of course, he's a medical doctor. He has carried out. He's been campaigning for the last 3 years in that particular constituency. A number of back to school and medical fairs as well for the communities and for the students. So he's quietly confident that he can regain the seat for the PNP. Just bring you back to present now, where we're in the Southwest seat. This particular seat in St. Elizabeth is said to be a seat that whichever party wins this particular seat, that is the Southwest St. Elizabeth seat, then that party usually wins the overall national elections. Of course, Floyd Green, first-time MP, looking to hold off Ewan Stevenson. We're going to be catching up with Floyd Green at the Barber Hall Primary School in a few minutes as well. But he's also sounding confident. He's going by the slogan Barber Green, based on the amount of some 24 roads that he has been able to repair.
All right, Jeremy, we have to put a wrap on it right there.
All right, thank you, Herman, and we'll definitely be catching up with Floyd Green, and we'll bring you up to speed.
All right, thank you, Jermaine Brown there in southwestern and southeastern St. Elizabeth. And that's where we put a wrap on the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Remember, join us at 5 o'clock for a special Election Day coverage of primetime news. On behalf of the News Person production teams, good afternoon.
2020, the year of the most twists and turns, and we've got you covered. Decision 2020, COVID-style coverage. From the opening of the polls across Jamaica, our teams will bring you ballot-by-ballot coverage. We'll give you the latest voters' count, spiced with our experienced analysts. Which party will form the next government? TVJ's Decision 2020, we've got you covered.
It's the big one.
We are going to create the new Jamaica.
This team is ready to rescue Jamaica.
2020, the year of the most twists and turns, and we've got you covered. Decision 2020, COVID-style coverage. From the opening of the polls across Jamaica, our teams will bring you ballot-by-ballot coverage. We'll give you the latest voters' count, spiced